Hello everyone, my name is Sato. I'm involved in the practice and extension of organic agriculture in Japan. Today, I'll outline the package of technical cooperation content on the extension of organic agriculture techniques for assistance to small-scale farmers groups. This program is part of JICA Technical Assistance. It is highly expected that this package can be utilized by those who aim to support small-scale farmers in developing countries through the use of organic agriculture. First of all, let us have a look at the history of organic farming in Japan till today.
After World War II in Japan, Japanese policy has pushed for increased agriculture productivity and economic efficiency. Thus, chemical fertilizers to allow for more efficient introduction of nutrients needed for crops and labor-saving chemical pesticides and herbicides began to be used. Furthermore, farmers became increasingly specialized in either crop cultivation or livestock breeding. This farming style is known as conventional agriculture. The essence of conventional agriculture is the pursuit of rationality within a market economy system. Conventional agriculture has contributed to increased agriculture productivity. However, it has also been responsible for a variety of problems. The first such problem is the pollution of rivers and seas with synthetic agriculture chemicals such as pesticides and herbicides. Furthermore, it has been found that the long-term continued use of synthetic agriculture chemicals lowers soil fertility. Moreover, having more awareness of food safety and environmental issues, consumers also have become more skeptical about conventional agriculture, which has led to more and more consumer demand for safe, healthy, and tasty foods. In these circumstances, some farmers started to introduce organic agriculture in the rural areas of Japan around the early 1970s. Since then, Japanese organic agriculture has grown and developed through various trials and errors. Since Japanese organic agriculture has mainly been developed by small-scale, family-based farmers, the lessons from Japanese experience can be shared by small-scale farmers in other areas of the world.
JICA considered that such experiments in Japan, as well as knowledge, experiences, and skill on organic agriculture and the method for skill dissemination accumulated through the technical assistance program in the past might be utilized in supporting small-scale farmers. And this was the motive to produce the program of extension of organic agriculture techniques for assistance to small-scale farmers groups in 2007. The aim of this package is that by learning this material, the principles and basic technical background will be widely understood in developing countries so that this knowledge can be effectively utilized to support small-scale farmers groups. Now, let us overview the structure of the textbook. contained in this package.
This package consists of 5 different modules. First, Module 0, Principles of Organic Agriculture, explains the principles of organic agriculture and clarifies the objectives to learn organic agriculture. Next, Module 1, Overview of Organic Agriculture by Small-Scale Farmers, allows you to learn the basic knowledge of organic agriculture. At the same time, Module 1 clarifies your objectives to extend or practice organic agriculture in your respective areas so that you can have a clear vision of what to learn from this material. Next, Module 2, Overview of Management for Small-Scale Farms, explains the basics of farming management, such as economic analysis and organizational operation. After that, Module 3, Organic Agriculture Technology, allows you to learn the technical knowledge for organic agriculture, such as soil preparation. As organic agriculture has its base in optimal use in the natural potential of a farming field, techniques used in one place are not always applicable in other places. However, what you are expected here is to learn the basic concepts and actual cases of organic agriculture techniques, to think of your own usable resources and methods applicable in your places. Finally, Module 4, Overview of Support and Extension of Small-Scale Farmers, provides you with knowledge to assist small-scale farmers, such as an outline of rural appraisal and extension measures, formation of a vision and plan of operations, and monitoring evaluation. This package includes various tools for its maximum utilization. One of them is the Job Aid. This is a tool which helps you to review the learned knowledge and techniques in this package. It also contains the flip charts and forms that help you in the actual practice of organic agriculture. The textbook also effectively contains exercises and case studies that help you to stimulate how to practice organic agriculture in your own place. Therefore, this package is designed to be useful for people who practice and extend organic agriculture.
Could you get a clear image of the package? Here, I would like to share with you some message from Japanese organic farmers. They describe their intentions in practicing organic farming.
About 60 kilometers northwest of Tokyo, the capital of Japan, there is a small town called Ogawamachi in Saitama Prefecture. Mr. Yoshinori Kaneko has practiced organic agriculture in this town since 1971. Mr. Kaneko owns 1.5 hectares of fields, 1.5 hectares of rice paddies, and 1.7 hectares of forest. On his farm, he has 2 milk cows, 200 chickens, and other animals such as 70 Igamo ducks. A specific feature of Mr. Kaneko's farm is that all the resources on the farm are in cyclic use.
Well, garbage, wheat chaff, rice chaff, and weeds from the farm all can be fed to chickens and cows. Then their animal manure is mixed with fallen leaves from the mountains for compost. Using the soil contained in the compost, agricultural products are made. the waste of which is fed to the cattle. I actually feel that everything is in a cycle. There's truly nothing to throw away.
Mr. Kaneko says that a main feature of organic agriculture is that farmers can be self-reliant through it.
I can say a feature of organic agriculture is its self-reliance. I prepare soil by myself instead of using synthetic agricultural chemicals. And I manage the field without using synthetic agricultural chemicals, so there's no expenses needed for those chemicals. I also deliver our products directly to consumers so that I don't need to pay any commissions. In addition to this, I try to grow suitable seeds for organic agriculture on my farm, and I try not to depend on energy sources such as oil by using natural energy. Thus, as a result, I am not depending on outside resources, and I am confident in my self-reliance. I think this self-reliance is a specific feature of organic agriculture.
Hyogo Prefecture is located in the Midwest of Japan's main island. Mr. Shinji Hashimoto practices organic farming in Ichijima town, Tamba City in Hyogo Prefecture. Mr. Hashimoto intends to actively interact with consumers and organizes a so-called farmers market to conduct over-the-counter sales in the town. He is also actively involved in the various activities of a group of people to create a long-term partnership with organic farmers, which is called community-supported agriculture. Mr. Hashimoto says that relationships with consumers is necessary to work in organic agriculture.
I think everywhere in the country there is a farmers market, and producers produce vegetables, food, because they know that someone is going to eat this. But if the system become more complicated, you just produce not for the food, but for the money. And you should continue like that. You are just producing the commodity, not food for someone to eat. And it is because that there is no face-to-face relationship between the producers and consumers. So farmers often complain that we apply the pesticide because consumers do not understand the situation in the rural area. But I think before they are complaining about it, I think they should start a relationship with the consumers and let them know what is happening in the rural area and why they have to apply the pesticide. And if you continue this kind of face-to-face relationship, also the organic agriculture will become more easier.
Kyushu is about 800 kilometers southwest from Tokyo. The Japanese organic farmer introduced here is Mr. Masatoshi Iwasaki, who practices organic agriculture in Unzen City, Nagasaki Prefecture in Kyushu. The area of Mr. Iwasaki's farm is about 2.5 hectares. He grows about 80 kinds of vegetables throughout the year. Mr. Iwasaki started conventional agriculture in 1975 and shifted into organic agriculture around 1985. This was because of the deterioration of his health caused by using synthetic agriculture chemicals. While going to the hospital to treat his bad health, Mr. Iwasaki encountered with the book Introducing Organic Agriculture.
Reading the book in bed, I was enlightened about this kind of agriculture, which doesn't require any synthetic agricultural chemicals. That was 20 years ago when I made up my mind to practice organic agriculture and to stop using synthetic agricultural chemicals. Actually, as I was lying on the bed reading the book, and I decided to practice this when I recovered.
Mr. Iwasaki produces 80 kinds of crops throughout the year. And a specific feature of Mr. Iwasaki's farm is that about 50 kinds out of 80 are true bred. Most of them are bred by himself. Mr. Iwasaki says it is important in organic agriculture to grow the traditional and suitable vegetables of the area and to preserve the seeds of them.
Preserving those traditional vegetables is very important, especially in organic agriculture, which doesn't use synthetic agricultural chemicals. We should have noticed this much earlier before we lose them. Those traditional grown vegetables are very suitable to the local climate and soil, and they don't need much synthetic agricultural chemicals. So I think it would be wonderful if we could get back the natural cycle of the seeds, local culture, and food culture. If the seeds are preserved more in the community, the richer the local culture would become, and eventually the food culture becomes richer. I should have become aware of that 10 or 20 years ago. Finally, now I have become aware of the wonderfulness and importance of saving these seeds from extinction. I think it is very important to practice agriculture and preserve these seeds at the same time.
I can mention another major effect of organic farming, which is reduction of production costs. While conventional farming requires the purchase of many items, such as agricultural chemicals and fertilizers, organic farming effectively utilizes various local resources found around the farming area and the community, which allows the farmers to minimize external input.
Japanese organic farmers also emphasize that organic agriculture is a form of agriculture for human beings, which is environmentally friendly.
Once you destroy something, it takes much time to bring it back. I really think so. You might be successful at the moment when synthetic agricultural chemicals are introduced, but it will take a very long time to convert back to agriculture without chemicals. So I feel that organic agriculture is very important in that you can steadily hand down indigenous agricultural methods and preserve and hand down nature as well.
Many countries, in developed countries, after they started to do the modern agriculture, small farmers are losing their job because the environment is degrading. And I don't think that the conventional agriculture is a solution. Of course, the organic agriculture technique has to be improved more because we maybe are less efficient comparing with the conventional agriculture. But I think it's very important for the third world people to find an alternative way for the solution of a rural life, rural agriculture.
Currently, it is said that the two big issues in the world are the survival of human beings and the survival of other living creatures on the earth. I hope that you keep practicing organic farming with pride and self-confidence because it is work to protect and support people's health, to preserve and to nurture the global environment.
Don't you think this is a great advantage for small-scale farmers in developing countries? There are another great attractiveness to organic farming. It also helps small-scale farmers establish face-to-face relationships with consumers based on self-sustenance and eventually sustainable independence, which protects them from negative effects of a global market. As mentioned, organic agriculture not only produces safe and secure food, but is also a farming method in which small-scale farmers can be involved in a sustainable manner, reducing production costs and realizing independence. And this package is the one to offer comprehensive learning on practice and extension of organic agriculture. I sincerely expect all of you to utilize this package to practice and promote the organic agriculture in various places in the world.
After World War II in Japan, Japanese policy has pushed for increased agriculture productivity and economic efficiency. Thus, chemical fertilizers to allow for more efficient introduction of nutrients needed for crops and labor-saving chemical pesticides and herbicides began to be used. Furthermore, farmers became increasingly specialized in either crop cultivation or livestock breeding. This farming style is known as conventional agriculture. The essence of conventional agriculture is the pursuit of rationality within a market economy system. However, this type of farming has caused many problems, such as the deterioration of food safety, food security, soil fertility, environmental pollution, and health hazards to farmers. Under these circumstances in Japan, the number of farmers who practice organic agriculture has increased gradually. They practiced organic agriculture based on soil improvement with organic fertilizers without using synthetic agriculture chemicals such as pesticides and herbicides. One of the pioneer Japanese organic farmers is Mr. Yoshinori Kaneko, introduced in this video. This video introduces a good example of the practice of organic agriculture in Japan through the case of Mr. Kaneko's Sato farm. 60 kilometers northwest from Tokyo, the capital of Japan, there is a small town called Ogawamachi in Saitama Prefecture. Ogawamachi has a population of about 36,000 people. Shimo Sato Farm is located in the town. This is Mr. Yoshinori Kaneko, who is the owner of Shimo Sato Farm. He has been practicing organic agriculture since 1971. Mr. Kaneko's Shimo Sato Farm has 1.5 hectare of paddy field and 1.5 hectare of farming field where he grows 60 kinds of crops a year. He also has a 1.7 hectare of forest. He keeps 2 milk cows, 200 chickens, and 70 Igamo ducks, which are a cross between wild and domesticated ducks. The Igamo ducks eat weeds in the paddy. Mr. Kaneko has been practicing organic agriculture for 36 years. His farm accepts interns to learn organic agriculture, as well as many trainees from around the world. On this particular day, too, some trainees from Central America under the JICA training program were visiting his farm to learn organic agriculture. Mr. Kaneko started practicing organic agriculture in 1971. It was the time when issues of pollution surfaced, which attracted people's attention toward food safety. Mr. Kaneko said that he became skeptical about the conventional agriculture, which required a lot of synthetic agriculture chemicals, and started organic agriculture under such circumstances.
I started organic agriculture because I found that conventional agriculture wouldn't last long because it exaggerated the use of synthetic agricultural chemicals, while it had eliminated animalcules and bacteria in the soil. Without these animalcules and bacteria, the soil gets harder and harder. I felt that I should go back to the basics.
Conventional agriculture, which made Mr. Kaneko skeptical. What problems can be found in conventional agriculture? Let us have a look at what the impacts are and what problems are caused by the conventional agriculture to agricultural products, the environment, and the human body. First, let us look at conventional agriculture's effect on agriculture products. Chemical fertilizers and synthetic agriculture chemicals used in conventional agriculture kill many living things on farms, including the soil. As a result, soil fertility was lowered and biodiversity declined in the fields. In such an environment, crops became weak and more diseases and pests are prone to occur. Thus, farmers are pushed into a situation where they have to use more synthetic agriculture chemicals, and crops become weaker and weaker. This is a non-sustainable cycle. In conventional agriculture, monoculture without crop rotation is frequently performed to enhance productivity and economic efficiency. However, practicing monoculture without crop rotation destroys the balance of nutrients and biota in the soil, resulting in weaker crops with poor tolerance to diseases and pests. Next, the extensive use of synthetic agriculture chemicals has a tremendous impact on the environment. Synthetic agriculture chemicals contaminate the soil, surface water, and underground water. This is a critical problem especially in developing countries, where river and underground water still provide important drinking water. It is also pointed out that there's the possibility of danger of outbreak of harmful insects and weeds which are resistant to synthetic agriculture chemicals. This leads to the use of stronger chemicals to have sufficient effect. Synthetic agriculture chemicals are also harmful to human beings. Some health hazard cases have been reported where agriculture chemicals with high toxicity levels caused health damage such as poisoning to farmers. Especially in developing country, health hazards from agriculture chemicals is a matter of concern, not only for farmers, but also for the general public, as chemicals with high toxicity levels might be used, or even other chemicals might be inadequately used. Other than these effects, conventional agriculture, which rests on the premise that requires the use of synthetic agriculture chemicals, can cause various problems in agriculture societies and their economies, such as loss of indigenous agriculture techniques and skills, a decrease of work opportunity in agriculture villages with the mechanization of agriculture, and an increase in land proprietary in agriculture villages by investors. As these issues have come to surface, more and more farmers have become skeptical about the sustainability of conventional agriculture. Mr. Kaneko is one of them. Here, taking up Mr. Kaneko's Shimosato farm as an example, let us have a look at the actual practice of organic agriculture to grow safe, tasty, and nutritious crops. Regarding the basic process of organic agriculture, it is said the following four are the keys for cultivation. 1. Soil preparation. 2. Developing a comprised of cropping environment, mixed cropping and crop rotation. 3. Selection of cultivars. And 4. Achieving biodiversity. Mr. Kaneko considers that soil preparation is the base of organic agriculture. Organic matter in the soil is the most fundamental element of organic agriculture and can be increased in amount. Therefore, he applies compost and green manure made by himself in order to increase organic matter in the soil. Mr. Kaneko makes compost from fallen leaves, crushed twigs, and rice bran. Other than these, he also utilizes poultry manure from the poultry house, where chopped straw, chaff, and fallen leaves are laid on the floor. Also, he uses liquid fertilizer made from the excrement of livestock, water, organic garbage, and bokashi fertilizer and green manure.
Basically, you should prepare the soil by hand, utilizing the local resources around you, not depending on synthetic agricultural chemicals. Well, soil preparation through compost making is the most important practice in order to produce safe and tasty food. It is the starting point.
美味しい食べ物を作っていくっていうのが一つのポイントなんですけど、はい。
Mr. Kaneko makes compost, utilizing various organic matter around his farm, such as weeds and excrement of livestock on the farm, and leaves and twigs from the forest and the community. This is definitely the way of soil preparation, utilizing organic cycle on the farm and in the community. The next thing is developing a cropping environment, especially mixed cropping and crop rotation. Mr. Kaneko grows more than 60 kinds of crops through the year, practicing mixed cropping and crop rotation. With diversity of crops cultivated, he seeks to develop a cropping environment which is closer to the natural environment. This will protect the nutrient balance of the soil and maintain a balance in the local ecosystem. Therefore, crops can grow healthier and stronger compared to crops that are grown in a monoculture environment.
On a farm, producing various kinds of crops makes it easy to set up rotation. If we only have a small variation of items, sometimes we have to grow the same kind every year. But if items are varied, it becomes easier to set up a rotation, which can prevent damages caused by diseases or harmful insects. In other words, mixed cropping and crop rotation in organic agriculture is a farming method that prevents damages by disease and harmful insects.
The third is selection of cultivar. This means to grow crops which are best suited to the local climate and soil. The best crops to choose from are those plant varieties which have been cultivated in a region for many generations, allowing them to have become adapted to the soil and to have developed resistance to local pests and diseases.
My senior farmer said, "There are no better techniques than indigenous breeding." This shows the importance of breeds which are suitable to the climate and environment of the area. We definitely had been trying to find varieties suitable for organic agriculture. 6 years ago, we encountered these particular soybeans in Ogawamachi. They are conventional and traditional Ogawamachi soybeans, which are a perfect match to the climate here. It is very important to find cultivars that are suitable to organic agriculture and the local environment by breeding.
The fourth is biodiversity. This partially overlaps with the second item, developing a cropping system. By practicing mixed cropping and crop rotation, a rich biodiversity is created. There are various living creatures in nature. Realization of a rich biodiversity like the one seen in nature can keep a balance between harmful and beneficial creatures and enables the utilization of natural pest enemies and beneficial bacteria. As seen in the case of Mr. Kaneko's farm, there are various benefits in practicing organic agriculture, which cannot be found in conventional agriculture. Let us sum up these effects. The first thing to mention is that organic agriculture is sustainable and environmentally friendly. One of the features of Mr. Kaneko's farm is that they carry out agriculture within the natural cycle. He calls it the promotion of a natural cycle. Livestock eats crops, vegetable refuse, and weeds on the farm. Then the excra, weeds, and fallen leaves are made into compost, and they go back into the field. This farm utilizes natural physical circulation very well. This also means environmentally friendly agriculture. The next benefit is that organic agriculture produces safe, reliable food products. Organic agriculture produces crops which are safe both for human beings and for the environment by utilizing natural productivity without depending on synthetic agriculture chemicals.
Agriculture, in the past, has rather focused on productivity. But the importance of food is to support human health and life. In this sense, organic agriculture is a very important duty because it definitely supports human life and protects nature.
Furthermore, not using synthetic agriculture chemicals means the realization of safe agriculture work, which secures farmers' safety. The other major benefit of organic agriculture is the realization of self-sufficiency for farmers. Organic farming allows even small-scale farmers to become independent by continually selling their agriculture products to consumers while having self-support at its base.
I can say a feature of organic agriculture is farmers' self-reliance. As I mentioned before, I prepare soil by my hand instead of buying synthetic agricultural chemicals. Also, I manage the field without using synthetic agricultural chemicals, so there's no expenses needed for them. I also deliver our products directly to consumers, and I can avoid paying any commission payment this way. In addition to this, I try to harvest suitable needs for organic agriculture on my farm, and I try not to depend on energy from fossil fuels by utilizing natural energies. Thus, as a result, I am not dependent on outside resources, and I am confident in my self-reliance. I think this self-reliance is a specific feature of organic agriculture.
Other than this, reduction of production costs can be achieved by utilizing local resources without purchasing synthetic agriculture chemicals. However, sometimes it's not easy to make the transition from conventional agriculture to organic agriculture. Mr. Kaneko, who started organic farming more than 35 years ago, had much hardship in the beginning. First, it takes time to achieve stable production. After transiting from conventional agriculture to organic agriculture, it takes time starting from the preparation of good soil to the stable production of crops. Productivity often declines for 2 to 3 years in the beginning. In Japan, it is said that it takes at least 2 years to achieve stable production. Mr. Kaneko says it took him 10 years to obtain satisfying soil conditions.
I became satisfied and confident in the condition of the soil and crops after 10 years of practice.
It was also difficult to gain people's understanding and support at the time.
They didn't use the word crazy, but just said, "He is peculiar." That was the first thing they said. To such criticizing eyes in the village, I was laughed at when weeds covered my field all over and was told, "Serves you right," when I had crop diseases and harmful insects. It took me quite a long time to master a way of cultivation which prevents weeds, diseases, and harmful insects.
While in transition, there are other challenges, namely an increase of labor input compared to conventional agriculture as organic agriculture requires soil preparation and weed suppression without using pesticides. Market forming, which requires farmers to make an effort themselves to find consumers who understand the benefits of organic agriculture products. It might not be easy for small-scale farmers in developing countries to overcome such challenges while in transition. However, it is necessary to follow the transition process into organic agriculture, which is suitable for each farmer's condition, by reducing risks as much as possible. For instance, through a step-by-step approach in the transition to organic agriculture. Mr. Kaneko also recommends farmers in transition to organic agriculture to follow step-by-step transition process, taking their time.
Whenever I talk to Japanese farmers about the transition period, I tell them to stick to the way not to use synthetic agricultural chemicals at all, even on a small patch of the field on their farms at the beginning. Then, 2 or 3 years after the transition are the times when the soil has the least fertility, which requires farmers to think about ways to apply a large amount of bokashi fertilizer, liquid fertilizer, or organic fertilizers. If you keep applying compost for 4 to 5 years, compost will decompose and become nutrition. I can say the 2nd and 3rd years are the hardest times. If synthetic agricultural chemicals are used during this hard time, the barrier towards organic agriculture cannot be overcome. If a farmer holds on for 3, 4, or 5 years into the transition towards organic agriculture, conditions will be better enough to grow crops without using synthetic agricultural chemicals. Then the farmer can be inclined to grow crops without using synthetic agricultural chemicals in other parts of the farm. This is what I think.
He says it's important to make one's own supply.
As an advice for developing countries' farmers, I would like to suggest to them to start with subsistence agriculture or self-reliant organic agriculture. The first thing to do is to establish a mechanism where farmers can make their own supply adequately. Then, sell the surplus with confidence. If it is difficult to sell crops alone, gather other people and make a farmers' group. Eventually, you can find consumers who will be happy to buy organic agricultural products. It might seem like a long and indirect way, but I think it is the best way to take to practice organic agriculture.
It also seems necessary to keep on practicing organic agriculture with pride and self-confidence.
There are so many ups and downs I have in 4 seasons of work on the field, but eventually I can have the joy of harvesting. Yes, the secure feeling at the time of a big harvest cannot be replaced with anything else. Also, it is sad that the second biggest global issue is the survival of human beings and of other living creatures. I hope to, and hope all those who are concerned to, keep on working for organic agriculture with confidence, as it supports and promotes health, and saves and nurtures the global environment.
In Ogawamachi, organic agriculture was started by Mr. Kaneko alone. Today, organic agriculture is making a positive change to this town. The number of organic farmers, which was only Mr. Kaneko in the beginning, has grown to 26 as of 2007. As organic agriculture products became more popular at supermarkets and retail stores, inquiries for organic products increased. This has led 4% of agricultural fields and paddies in Ogawamachi to practice organic agriculture today. Furthermore, organic agriculture started to collaborate with local industries to vitalize the community. This is Tofu Factory Watanabe, which is in Mr. Kaneko's neighboring town. They start to produce tofu and sell it on the day at 4 in the morning. Tofu is made from soybeans, the Japanese favorite bean curd made by coagulating soy milk. This tofu factory purchased all the soybeans produced by Mr. Kaneko and his group members under contract and used them as ingredients. Mr. Watanabe, owner of the factory, says enthusiastically that high-quality soybeans are indispensable to making high-quality tofu, which sells well. Mr. Watanabe used to make tofu from imported soybeans grown in conventional agriculture. But when he met Mr. Kaneko and the soybeans grown by him, he was impressed with its taste and Mr. Kaneko's passion in organic agriculture. After that, he decided to start making exclusive tofu from the organic soybeans grown in the area, instead of mass-producing cheap tofu from imported, less expensive soybeans. Tofu and other processed tofu products made at the factory in the morning are displayed and sold at the shop within the factory. The tofu made here is famous for its good taste and good effect on health, which attracts about 200 to 500 clients per day, which come even from faraway places. Receiving many shoppers from other areas and prefectures further vitalizes the community. In this way, organic agriculture, started by Mr. Kaneko, has expanded within the community and further extended its connection to local industries to play a role in vitalizing the community. This introduces a new potential in organic agriculture. Up to now, we have covered 1. The problems with conventional agriculture. 2. The structure of organic agriculture in Japan. 3. Issues and challenges in transition from conventional agriculture to organic agriculture. And 4. The expansion of organic agriculture in the community, which has been introduced by Mr. Kaneko's farm and interviews with him. As Mr. Kaneko mentioned, practitioners of organic agriculture in Japan have some key words in their minds and practice, such as food safety and food security, environmental conservation, self-reliance, natural cycle. The Japan Organic Agriculture Association, which Mr. Kaneko also belongs to, has a philosophy called Aims of Organic Agriculture. With these aims in mind, Japanese organic farmers are working hard to practice and promote organic agriculture. Mr. Shogo Sasaki. Mr. Sasaki was dispatched to Costa Rica in Central America as a JICA JOCV, Japan Overseas Cooperation Volunteers representative in 1988. In Costa Rica, Mr. Sasaki made much effort to promote organic agriculture. This program gives you an idea about the practical methods of organic agriculture extension in developing countries and the effectiveness of a farmer-to-farmer approach through an actual case of Mr. Sasaki's experience in Costa Rica. And I hope that you'll find some hints and tips for your own extension activities. Mr. Sasaki is a small-scale farmer who currently runs a poultry farm in Kyushu, Japan. He spent 3 years, from 1988 to 1991, working for the introduction of organic agriculture in a village in northwestern Costa Rica as a soil fertilizer team member of JICA-JOCV. The Republic of Costa Rica is located in Central America. At that time, Mr. Sasaki was working in a small village called Brisa Alfaro Ruiz in Alajuela province, which is located 80 kilometers north of San Jose, the capital city of Costa Rica. The village is a tropical highland at 1,800-meter altitude with a moderate climate. At that time, most of the villagers were involved in farming or dairy production. As the first thing to do after arrival in this village, Mr. Sasaki collected information walking around the area to grasp the current conditions of agriculture in the village. He made daily visits to farming households and fields, and he sometimes visited local bars to have casual conversations with farmers. He gradually built a relationship of trust with farmers, and he collected the information about agriculture in the village. In Brisa village, subsistence agriculture, which was similar to traditional slush and burn agriculture, had been dominant. However, the modernization process, farmers started to grow cash crops, such as cabbage, lettuce, and broccoli. However, all the work had to be done by hand, since most of the farming fields in Brisa village were on slopes, so tractors couldn't be introduced to cultivate the fields. Such circumstances had led the villagers to be inclined to introduce chemical fertilizers in order to save labor.
Particularly in such a place, the chemical fertilizer they used was very convenient, showing immediate effect only using a small amount. It was very attractive and easy to use for the farmers, and the use of the chemical fertilizers has spread wider and wider. The farmers had some knowledge of the risks of using agricultural chemicals. In fact, there were actually quite a few incidents where farmers fell sick because of acute poisoning. But still, it was hard for them to wear work gloves and masks, as it was hot. Few farmers used any masks or gloves. Having looked at these scenes while walking around the village, I became concerned much more about their health than of damage to the soil caused by overuse of chemicals. And sometimes children from the farming families played near the fields. When the winds blew, chemicals were likely to be blown towards them. This happened about once a week, and I thought it was very dangerous. The health of the farmers was the most important concern to me, and in addition, if they use such large amounts of agricultural chemicals, the soil was definitely damaged. So I started to consider how I could solve these problems, and this is how my project started.
Viewing this situation, Mr. Sasaki thought it was necessary to recover the soil fertility to reduce the use of agricultural chemicals and chemical fertilizers. He started to extend the organic fertilizers to revive the fertility of the soil full of the energy of life, which is the base of organic agriculture. For farmers in developing countries who have become accustomed to the use of chemical fertilizers and agriculture chemicals, there are various challenges in implementing organic agriculture. For example, yield and income may be reduced temporarily. At the same time, more work is required. Also, you'll have to find a market for your organic vegetables. There are many challenges in transition from conventional farming to organic agriculture. To tackle such challenges, it is necessary to present long-term perspectives as well as successful examples achievable within a short period of time. Extension workers need to provide concrete advice to farmers and think and work with them when they try to implement the organic agriculture. Changing conventional ways causes much anxiety to farmers. To overcome the anxiety, it is very important to provide farmers with concrete techniques and confidence, especially in the extension of organic agriculture. Mr. Sasaki, in fact, faced such anxiety among the farmers while he was holding workshops to extend organic fertilizers.
Talking with the farmers, I found they were aware of the situation to some extent, so they seemed to accept what I said. They said, "Yes, you are right, it is important. We have to do something." When I told them that organic fertilizers are important to improve the soil and that it is necessary to reduce the use of chemical fertilizers and agricultural chemicals, they also said, "Yes, indeed." But it's one thing to understand an idea and another to put it into practice. Most of them never took action in their own fields, even though they understood the idea. That's because it was not easy for them to change the way they'd been doing things for so long a time.
The word of organic agriculture existed in Costa Rica at the time. Its image was of mostly thin, miserable-looking vegetables with warm hulls all over. So, Mr. Sasaki thought there was no other way than proving the effects of organic agriculture in the visible manner, and he tried to make compost to grow vegetables with it. The first attempt by Mr. Sasaki turned out to be adequately successful. His vegetables were not so good looking, but he managed to produce a harvest. Then Mr. Sasaki took the next step of asking 10 farmers who were compassionate with him to make compost together and grow vegetables. But
It was a complete failure. It was my fault. I used the wrong strategy. It's too late to think about it now, but it was an absolute mistake to begin with compost making for those farmers who would use organic fertilizers for the very first time. So from the beginning, I demonstrated what kind of work it was, while explaining that the important thing is to keep using it. I kept asking them to continue, because it would take several years to improve the soil and to see obvious outcomes. Then, the farmers in turn understood that it would take time. They proved it themselves that compost didn't have immediate effect like chemical fertilizers. They didn't have to wait for the result for a few years. On this step already, many farmers found it less effective even though they worked hard. So they didn't keep going on with it. 9 out of 10 farmers thought that way and gave up making compost. What I learned from this failure was that I had to think about a way of organic farming which was closer to the farming method with which they were accustomed. Just throw a handful of chemical fertilizer and everything grows. Then I decided to use fermented fertilizer, known as bokashi fertilizer, which is traditionally used in Japan.
On the basis of this experience of failure, Mr. Sasaki thought of the next attempt, which was to use the combination of compost with bokashi fertilizers and liquid organic fertilizers, which would have immediate effect. At that time, there was only one farmer remaining with Mr. Sasaki. Here, Mr. Sasaki set up a new strategy, that is, to make the remaining farmer a model farmer and do whatever they could with various techniques combined. Mr. Sasaki also set up a demonstration plot to prove the effects of organic farming. As a result, well-grown vegetables were harvested both at the model farmer's field and at Mr. Sasaki's demonstration plot.
A model field is managed by a local model farmer. Well, I sometimes visited to give advice while the local farmer was actually working in the field. On the other hand, the demonstration plot was managed by myself. The result of organic agriculture practiced by a local model farmer has a much stronger impact than a demonstration plot managed by an extension worker or a technician like me. I was regarded as a technician from Japan who knew everything in the farmer's eyes. They might expect that things I did would have certain results. But the results of a farmer in the same village who had worked hard as instructed and also with his own ideas meant very much to them.
In addition to that, after a newspaper introduced a promotion event by Mr. Sasaki and the model farmer, many inquiries were made from all over Costa Rica. Many visitors came to visit the model farmer's field and Mr. Sasaki's demonstration plot. Whenever Mr. Sasaki had a visitor, he always took the visitor to the model farmer's field and let the farmer explain it himself.
What the model farmer said had much more impact than what I said. It was more reliable. Well, what can I say? I became truly convinced how great the impact was when I realized the effect through my experience. It was a strategy that we definitely needed in establishing any new farming technique. I really felt it.
here, let's review Mr. Sasaki's activity. First, asking a local farmer to be a model farmer to practice organic agriculture can be regarded as a sort of farmer-to-farmer approach. Agriculture extension in developing countries has many limitations in budget, and the working environment surrounding extension workers is often very severe. An extension worker has to take an approach of involving some core farmers who can extend the things to other farmers and motivate directly. This is the farmer-to-farmer approach. Mr. Sasaki first chose a model farmer as a core farmer. After that, he had this model farmer explain the methods to the neighboring farmers and visitors from other areas. In effect, "I can do it too" message was conveyed to the other farmers. In this way, his extension activities eventually had much impact. Mr. Sasaki said that he was convinced that the farmer-to-farmer approach is the most effective approach after he experienced the impact of this trial. In addition, Mr. Sasaki was successful with his own demonstration plot, which enabled him to transfer his techniques to the farmers. And he also had the model farmer think and practice while giving him advices. This means that he nurtured self-reliant farmers at the same time. In this way, organic agriculture was spreading little by little as the farmers were convinced and became confident that by employing organic agriculture, they can grow vegetables of the similar appearance to those grown by chemical fertilizer and agriculture chemicals. They became encouraged by the explanations of the pioneering model farmer. In Brisa village, where Mr. Sasaki used to work, organic agriculture has since been practiced with about 10 farmers playing a central role even after Mr. Sasaki left there. But now, after 15 years, 3 of the 10 original members are playing a core role in forming an official farmers group called Apador. They are conducting activities such as organic agriculture promotion and finding markets. However, they face some problems. One of them is finding markets for organic vegetables. They made every effort, negotiating with a large supermarket chain, and were able to make a contract with a supermarket to sell their vegetables. Another problem was the organization of the group. In organic farming, group forming is often needed at times of making compost or sales negotiations. They did form a group, but repeatedly broke up and reformed because of vague objectives and relationships among the members. Mr. Sasaki talks about their changes in these 15 years as follows.
まずは
First, they tried to modify and improve various techniques, including the basic fertilizers I introduced, through their own trials. That is very important. They thought deeply about the techniques and methods of organic agriculture themselves, tried them out, and observed the results. And step by step, they each established their own way, which is suitable to their fields and themselves. It's hard to experiment repeatedly, but most enjoyable and motivating. They've been having many difficulties. For example, they couldn't harvest when their vegetables were eaten up by worms. However, they have greatly improved their skills and techniques. They have become capable enough to make good products.
And still now, the self-reliant farmers in Bria village are taking steps forward. What did you think of Mr. Sasaki's case of extension activities in Costa Rica? I'm sure that it gave you some messages about the actual practice of extension activities in developing countries, with farmer-to-farmer approach and self-reliant farmers. Lastly, let's hear a message from Mr. Sasaki to all of you who utilize this package to extend organic agriculture and to those who practice organic agriculture.
I expect those who are involved in extension activities to have clear understanding of the roles which they should or are able to play. Those people work under limited and very severe conditions, so they should clearly know what to do within the given limitations. One such important role is that of a facilitator, I think. There are so many ways to facilitate. For example, a facilitator provides farmers with information, like such farmer is doing such a thing in a faraway place or in the neighborhood. And as a result, farmers become more interested. Or if there are some farmers who are interested in practicing new methods but are worrying about it, take them to the model farmer. If it's difficult to take many people together to the model farmer, the facilitator can invite an advanced farmer to meet other farmers and talk with them directly. It is most important for an extension worker or NGO to back up highly motivated farmers and then to nurture them too. I think that you might feel that the farmer-to-farmer approach is an inefficient way, but I expect you to realize that the farmer-to-farmer approach is the most effective and surest way